Nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the RGM Experience podcast. A podcast, ladies and gentlemen, where we delve into the grassroots music industry and beyond and find interesting people within it. And we've got a lovely guest for you today, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Adam Follett. Hey up, pal, or ads to his friends.
Yes, indeed. Hello, Carl.
Hi, mate. Thanks for joining us today. So I've known you for a long time, being a Sheffield boy and that myself. And you've been around a long time, just like I have, as well, haven't you? So you've got an amazing journey in the music industry.
Grays,
yeah, too right. Yeah, I've got all them. I've got all them. Yeah, I've got all them to show off. And it's just knowing the history of Sheffield music in particular, and we're both from that little town that I'll just love and adore. It's great to catch up with you today, mate. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, brilliant. So if anybody doesn't know who Adam Follett is, give us a little introduction to yourself, mate. What's your story?
Cool.
What's your game?
So I guess when we will have been on the scene together, if you like, will have been the early 2000s. I know there was a band called Atreyu back then.
Yeah.
And we used to frequent soundloud.com and l2sb.co.uk, whatever it was. And I think because, certainly I was like, 18 around that age. I thought we were all, your band, our band, and maybe four of us. That was the entire Sheffield scene. So in that small sort of microcosm, I thought like, wow, we are going to make it. We're going to be famous. We're going to break out. And then we started discovering other bands. And then obviously Arctic Monkeys popped along. Yeah. I think you've got a little story about them, haven't you?
Yeah. Just watch any other podcast, and I've told that story, so I don't need to go through it again.
I think we quickly realised, we're just a very small part of this. Yeah. But I've always enjoyed it. Always been in various bands, done various solo stuff. Yeah. The grand illusions of ever making it dwindled away to the point where now just do it for fun.
Yeah. Well, I can remember promising my mum that I'll pay a mortgage off through music. It never quite happened. We have these grand delusions of ourselves, don't we? That we're in our youth that we're going to make it, and that's all we want to do.
Yeah, no, that was short lived.
Definitely. Well, I can remember from Cats for Peru, Pelosa, the Beatles project, Sheffield Beatles project, which is an amazing community thing going on in Sheffield that's been going around for years. But before you got into music, before you started, going down this route of music, what did you do before that? Let's rewind to little ads growing up in Sheffield. What were you like at school and that kind of stuff? And what was the environment around you while you were growing up? What was it like?
So, family life, good. But through a music prism, my dad listened to Neil Diamond and not a lot else. Yeah. My mum listened to a few things, but mainly Queen. Okay. And no one in the family played an instrument or anything like that. So I grew up in a pub back when pubs used to shut on a Sunday or Sunday afternoon. Yeah. And we had a CD player in the pub, so my mum used to let me go in a closed pub on my own. I lived upstairs, so it wasn't, nothing weird going on. I used to just listen to Michael Jackson running around a closed club with all the lights off as well. Nice. So that was where it all started. And then, I just happened to have a neighbour who played drums. God rest his soul, because he's passed away now. But he got me into Def Leppard, which nice. I might sort of say with a smirk, but that did open up everything that has happened since. That was sort of start of it all. I played a bit of drums, then ended up playing a bit of guitar and singing a bit, and it's a slow process. I didn't have the a lot of people will be like, I was going through my dad's Smiths records, but now I was listening to Adrenalized by Def Leppard with my neighbour. Not the coolest origin story, but
well, it is what it is. So when were you when did you first did you start on drums, you say, before anything else?
Yeah, we went to a not rehearsal, like a tutor in Chesterfield, but it was one of them where it was like about 10 of you doing different things, and he would just walk around and say play this. Okay, I'll come back in half an hour. It wasn't great, but we were both trying drums, and then my mate was like 4 years older than me, so he said, look, we can't have two drummers. You learn something else, basically, because I was young. I was like, all right then. Which I'm happy I did. As much as I love playing drums, it's not really a it's not a cheap hobby. It's not something you can just do in your room, is it? Really?
It's a nightmare. I couldn't imagine it worse than being a drummer, because the singer's never going to help you carry out, and you've kind of got to make sure you've got some kind of adult that can drive you about with it as well, and you can't just stick it under your arm and go down to a little pub and play a few tunes, can you?
An absolute nightmare.
Yes,
loud. It's the worst solo instrument you can possibly hear. Yes. Like a cymbal going off in your ear. So no, I think I made the right choice.
And two drummers living next door to each other.
Yes, I was in this pub and we were once jamming in the upstairs of the pub.
Yeah.
Someone started throwing rocks. One of the customers came out of the pub and started throwing the rocks at the window and told us to shut up. I live here. Come on.
Yeah, fair enough. That's funny. Yeah. Well, like before you started the drums and stuff, that kind of stuff. Like, what was the environment in Sheffield like around you as a kid?
Well, I grew up in Drumfield. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah. I'm aware of that.
So I live in Chesterfield now. It's sort of in between Drumfield and Sheffield. Very sleepy town. Not a lot going on even now, sort of thing. Yeah. Although that's, at my age now, that's the sort of place I like.
That's what I like.
Again, I don't know. It was just a white middle class sort of area, really. So nothing too exciting going on.
Yeah.
The usual sort of class bullies and trying to just say hello to a girl now and again and crying myself to sleep. And I mean, that's not changed. No, that has changed. But yeah, it was just a very boring sort of upbringing of, a thankful privilege and that sort of stuff where, especially when I'm writing lyrics, there's not a lot I can draw from in that respect.
I would say, because a lot of people look back on a bit of trauma and use it to their advantage and try and make songs out of it. So
I've been very unlucky in that.
Okay.
I can't say that. No, you're right. Exactly. A lot of my favorite lyricists have come out of adversity and things like that. But I've thankfully, touch wood, to this point, as my well is very dry in that respect.
Yeah. So you got told to. So right, you're not playing drums ads anymore. You're gonna learn an instrument. You were told rather than just deciding to do it yourself. So what happened then? How did the music and getting into bands start to develop?
So our first band we had one of those drum pad things with the 4 pads.
Yes.
Remember those? And you could pick from 100 different sounds or something. I had a Casio keyboard. I had one of those guitars with buttons on that played different tunes.
All right.
I can't remember getting my first guitar. It was one of those Encore guitar amp combos you got from Argos or whatever. Nice. And then very slowly started learning guitar. And then, once again, that privilege coming in, my parents could afford to give me sort of one-on-one tuition.
Nice.
With Martin, what's his name? You might know him, actually. He runs, is it Moo Studios in Sheffield?
Moo Studios.
Can't be surname now. Martin. Anyway.
Yeah.
He taught me guitar for a long time, which he was very good. He was in a band called Apes, Pigs and Spacemen in the 90s, who did all right. They're in Kerrang, they got a fold-out poster in Kerrang.
Yeah.
So sort of learned that way, but very sort of rock-focused. Not even cool rock either. It was like Def Leppard and Bryan Adams and stuff like that. And then onto Iron Maiden and Queensryche and stuff. I was never a virtuoso by any means, but sort of liked a nice palm-muted riff.
Well, it's really interesting because I've known you as like particularly later on in the years where you're doing a lot of experimental stuff and you're right good with those samplers and all those technical machines and that kind of stuff, aren't you these days? You do a lot.
Yeah, you've done a lot of that. Sort of band. Every project I start is almost like trying to be the opposite of the last thing I did. So a trio were very sort of we were trying to be Soundgarden basically and failing. And then I sort of got into a bit more electronic stuff. So started doing some electronic stuff on my own. Then Cats for Peru, which was more, I guess, indie pop, indie rock.
Yeah.
Then I sort of got bored of guitar, so I started Pelosa, which was fully electronic. We had samplers and MIDI keyboards and
tables. You needed tables for stuff, didn't you? If I can remember when you played Frog One.
I actually had a trestle table as part of my gear setup. And then that just proves too blooming hard, really, because when you're using all these samples and stuff, you've almost got to not just write a song, you've got to produce and make the entire song before you can start playing it live. So it was, I felt like I wasn't good enough to do that, really. So gave that up in the end as well. I just like to try lots of different things, and that can work against me sometimes because I can never stick at one idea for too long because sort of get a bit antsy and bored of it.
Well, I can remember, like, you mentioned it earlier, Sound Aloud. That back in Sheffield, back in the early 2000s, that was like the place to be for a band, weren't it? It was kind of the only place that the Sheffield Star did tiny little bits, but Sound Aloud with a place where, you know, if you got on the front cover, not that we did, but, you know, that's what we kind of strive for, you know, to try and grab someone's attention enough for them to give a shit about you, to put you on the front cover and that kind of stuff, or even just get a little review and that kind of stuff. And that's always stuck with me. And I've ended up doing this RGM thing now where we're just trying to do as much as we can. But just looking back in those days, and it was online as well when the internet first started, it was a big change in Sheffield music, that kind of scene, weren't it, at that time, when there was actually somebody that wrote about you rather than, you know, trying to beg David Dunn down at Sheffield Star to try and get something on a Thursday or whatever.
Oh yeah, I still remember. I think you're talking about Sandman magazine there, are you?
Sandman, yeah, sorry, Sandman and Sound Aloud. Sound Aloud. Yeah, I'm getting confused. They all begins with S. Sound Aloud, Sandman magazine after that. But yeah, they were both online, were they? Was Sandman online?
Sandman was print, wasn't it?
Right. Okay. Let me get my bearings right. So Sandman was print.
I think I've sort of called it SoundCloud about 10 times. No, getting I don't know if we had an interview, but we definitely got reviews in Sandman, and just seeing it in print, like, which generally won't happen these days. Well, I suppose, you know, exposed and whatever, but it was amazing back then, like, to see that. But you still get that buzz now, you know, as we'll sort of talk about with Spook Music. I've been trying to get some reviews, and your very nice magazine kindly did that for me as well. And they still get that buzz of like, oh, you know what, I'm quite interested. You know, I'm not at that stage where it's going to make me massively happy or massively upset because of what they said, because it's just an opinion. But by the same token, it's really cool to hear someone sort of listen intently to music, especially today's sort of, not to go on a whole thing, but today's society of, you know, rushing through things and all this content, you know, you've got to stand out somehow.
You have, and the only kind of way at the minute is to try and get a bit of an audience, and that really is kind of, you've got to kind of try and do that online. So you've got to make these videos, aren't you? You've got to do reels now. You've got to have accounts with a certain amount of followers on each fucking every one. You've got to juggle everything. You've got to have enough time in the day to do it all. And the main bit, which is the fun bit, is making the music. The rest of it can be a bit of a pain, can't it, really?
Oh god, yeah. No, especially with Cats for Peru, because we did sort of have peaks and troughs of like, oh, we're actually not, you know, made it once again, but we did a release. Do you remember the SPC, the record label in Sheffield?
No, it's not coming.
They released. I think they did some like Nat Johnson's early stuff. Some like Champion Kickboxer and a few bands around that time, and Chuck and people like that. I'm sure I'm missing a big one there, but
Screaming Maldini, were they part of that? I'm just trying to remember.
Possibly, but they released our album.
Nice.
And at that point we're like, oh, this is amazing, because, you know, everything they release gets on Six Music and all this sort of stuff, and they do vinyl and all that kind of stuff. And then slowly it was like, I mean, they were great, and Denzel, I should say, from Phantom Power was involved as well. And, you know, they put some money behind it, put some love behind it, but it just never really took off. And, you know, comments coming back were like, you don't quite fit with the label and that kind of stuff. And then we were going to have a bit of a French tour at one point, and then the promoter got ill before it started and all this. So there's lots of sort of this, basically, to the point where now it's like, well, if I get 3 people liking my post, that'll do.
Well, it's never been easy, has it? And I don't know now if it's easier or not back then, because like you said earlier, you know, there were us lot, 5, 6 of us in Sheffield just doing what we do, so it didn't feel as easy to do what we did, really. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, because there just seems to be a lot of, particularly because I live in Manchester now, there's just hundreds of people, you know, wanting a career in music. In Sheffield there is now. It's a great scene in both cities, but I don't know if it's easier now or harder. I can't quite figure that out.
It's hard to, I mean, obviously I've got the lens of like how it was for me, sort of thing. You know, I still remember walking around Sheffield Centre with CDs and putting them through like the boardwalks and Casbar's mailbox and stuff like that. And then just sending off CDs to get reviewed. Now there's just so many places you can send to. I think sort of the review side of things probably harder. I'd say gigging is easier. You can obviously networking is a huge part of gigging. And you can sort of not skip that step, but being online, you can immediately sort of have the start of networking, can't you, through sending messages and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that point is probably easier, I think, but to actually build up an audience and that kind of, because it's very hard as well. I would imagine, this is obviously not talking from experience, but people who have got a good audience online, they've got 1 million plus plays on Spotify, doesn't always mean they're going to play gigs and be busy, or they're going to be heard of and that kind of thing. So I think it's probably hard to gauge how big you are, probably.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like mistrust with Spotify plays as well, because there's a lot of skullduggery that goes around with playlists and that kind of stuff, which I don't really know much about. I know it's out there. I don't know how to detect it. I ain't got time to detect what's going on with playlists, to be honest with you. But if it's like a brand new band and they're on 1 million streams, and their other 3 songs have got like 1,000 on it, it's just like,
alarm bells.
Something's going on there. But I do see a lot of bands complaining about being kicked off playlists or getting the music taken off Spotify when they're claiming that it's all genuine and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's hard work, Spotify, detecting what's going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, there was a band, I wish I could remember who it was now, they posted on Twitter saying one of their biggest songs had been deleted from Spotify just overnight. So they looked into it and then they got done for fraud. Basically, they've been added to a playlist, got millions of views, millions of plays. And then I think I don't know, they've been basically put on and taken off loads of playlists. And what it was basically someone had sort of dangled the carrot, put them on a playlist, and then said, if you want to remain on that playlist, give us X amount of money, basically. Wow. Without their knowledge, obviously they knew about it at that point, but they didn't know them on playlists in the first place. So in the end, because it had happened so much, they got deleted off Spotify, which seemed a little harsh. But I bet it
is a major pitfall. There must be a lot of bands out there that think, if I can get, because numbers are so important to labels and venues and promoters and that kind of stuff. I can see why people do it, but it doesn't really tend to get you too far when you like try and buy those type of things. It don't feel like it don't work very often, and it's a big pitfall for new bands, new artists, people that just want to go as far as they can. I can see why people do it, and I don't blame them for doing it. Whatever angle you want to do, or whatever advantages you want to give your own career, it is a major pitfall, that, isn't it? Paying someone to get you on a playlist, and then they take you off the playlist, and then they'll only put you back on if you give them a few quid, and then it's just like it's just wrong.
Hard to navigate, I imagine, if you're going to try and do it properly. Which can't be asked to do.
Yes, definitely. Well, Cats for Peru, they were a really interesting band, and I can remember seeing you do well. I'm like, they're doing well. They're doing like big gigs and stuff. They're doing like I don't know, like the Forum and stuff. Were the Forum around at that time? I can imagine. Did you have like an album launch at the Forum or something?
We did album launch at Shakespeare's.
Okay.
We played the Forum, and we did a few out-of-towners, which...
out-of-town gigs.
They were never huge, but, we'd go to Leeds and be like, there'll be people from last time and that kind of thing. And
nice.
It felt good. It was a good time. And, it was a product of us being quite young. I mean, we all had jobs at that stage. We were, fully grown adults, if you like, but none of us had kids at the time and all that sort of things. So we were able to go out to London one weekend and play a gig and that kind of stuff. So it was a very enjoyable time. And, I love the other 4 as well, and still hang out with them now and again. So,
and did you try and do a reunion for it as well?
We did.
More recently one. Talk me through
when we split, I think a couple of members were unwell, actually. Nothing serious, but just slightly long-term unwell. So we never really did that final gig. And then I think it was 5 years later, Ben Hartley at Leadenhall was a big fan of Cats for Peru, and he kept pushing for a reunion gig. So we were like, do you know what? Go on then, we'll do one last gig. So we did Leadenhall second stage sort of room. It was great. It was a really nice sort of... It didn't feel like a closure by any means, because it was so long. It did feel more like a reunion rather than a final gig. But it was nice to do again. And maybe one day we'll do another one. Door's not closed.
No.
It's like I'm calling out my band members, like Johnny Marr and Morrissey or something. Lucy's bought the names of Cats for Peru.
So Cats for Peru happened, and why did the band split up?
I think we just sort of ran our course a little bit, I think. We've been playing sort of similar sized gigs for a long, long time. don't know. We always sort of wrote music and were quite fast paced with that, but I think maybe we got a bit stale towards the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do still like those songs, but I don't know. And then just I think just little maybe the excuses, but the illness of a couple of members. I think Follett ended up getting a bit of tinnitus as well, so that was an issue.
Yeah, sure.
And like I say, I get a bit, we'd gone for 7 years, so it was a good innings, but I got a bit antsy and my music taste was changing a little bit. And yeah, I don't know, it was very amicable. So it wasn't, there wasn't any it wasn't like anyone was surprised at the sort of conversation we had about it. And then, it just came to its natural end.
What did you learn from those years during Cats for Peru that you took into your music career today?
I learned, probably not during those years, but I kind of learned later sort of, because I was sort of the songwriter for the band. And sometimes, certainly towards the beginning at least, I would sort of write everyone's parts because I've got a very sort of clear vision of how I want the song to sound rather than just, me and a guitar and then come in and write bits. And we did have some songs like that and they were probably ended up being my favourites. So I think what I learned, certainly when moving on to sort of Water People now, where I'm not the sort of I'm not the songwriter, I'm not the singer either. It's very different where, I'm not so, I'm not so much of a dictator, I guess.
Fair enough.
I would hope not in a bad way, but sort of very, I'm open to other things, which is the best. If you're collaborating with people, you want everyone's sort of ideas to come through. Whereas I perhaps didn't allow that so much in Cats for Peru. And, no one moaned to my face about it, but it might have been frustrating.
Every band does need that character, though, in it. I think someone just to drive the rest, I suppose. Because I do speak to a lot of bands, obviously, but there's always one there that's just it's their like main passion in the world, and some other band members just like being in a band for a bit. They're not necessarily in it for the long run. They're just enjoying doing what they kind of do. There's a lot of different characters and just different passions within a band that can, take you far or not. But there's always that dictator one in there. I think I was that one in my band. I do recognise that.
You got to get a balance, like a good dynamic between you all. With Cats for Peru, sort of, I would be like that. Then we'd have who was it? Maybe Bolly or Stella, maybe in the band. Someone who was very sort of positive about everything.
Yeah.
And you'd have Lucy, who was very sort of I don't want to say critical. That's not the right word by any means, but she would sort of temper things and sort of be like. And a lot of my songwriting, like I say, I'd bring it to the band, and some of them would be like, whatever it was, they'd be like, yep, that's fine, we'll go. But Lucy would be like, well, does this need to be this long? Well, I don't like this part. And, can hurt your ego briefly, but actually it's for the greater good of, you need that editing and that kind of stuff. So we had a very good dynamic, I think, for a long time in Cats for Peru.
Do you prefer it now than now you're not that dictator in your new music?
I think so. Well, I'm doing my solo stuff, so I get to be a dictator.
Yes.
I can be.
You do so much. I'm trying to whittle it down. You've got so much going on. You've got your solo stuff. You've got Beatles stuff. You've got everything else.
I just like to make music, but I can never settle on a certain sound or genre. So I think the way I've got it at the moment works really well with sort of, I've got clear sort of paths. If I write a song, or obviously I'm not writing songs for Sheffield Beatles product, but it's very clear what needs to be done with them. So it makes things easier, I think, in that regard.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about the Sheffield Beatles project because I just adore that community and just how much Sheffield's taken to that project. But I'm going to come to that in a bit. But one of the main reasons I wanted to have a chat with you today is I saw a tweet online from you. You've done a bit. You talk us through the tweet rather than me just make a mess of it. Talk me through the experience you had and why you felt like you went online with it with this.
Yeah, I did one of those, his little thread emoji, so you knew we didn't have more to read. It was just interesting. So with Spook Music, my solo project, I thought, it'd be nice to get some sort of reviews for it, but I wasn't really sure these days how you sort of go about that. So I did email a few places that haven't really come to fruition, although it wasn't that long ago, I guess. And then I was doing some research, looked at Submit Hub, and then one called Muso Soup.
Yeah.
Muso Soup. Play on miso soup. Don't know why, but it is. And I looked at it and said, like, here's your free thing. It doesn't guarantee you anything. or you can spend, I think it's £38, and then you'll get all these offers and stuff for reviews and stuff. So I thought, without any further research, I was like, 38 quid,
Yeah.
you know, it's obviously my own money. I'm really, well, saying that, you know, I've played a few gigs and made a bit of money, so I guess we'll take it out of that.
Yeah.
So I went with that, and you upload your EP. It hadn't come out yet, it was out in 2 weeks. And immediately I got two magazines, whatever the online magazines coming to me. I think one was in India, one was in Denmark, I think, saying, "We love your EP." I'm talking immediate. I'm talking. You couldn't have time to listen to the EP.
Yeah.
"We love your EP, and we'd love to review it for you." Yeah. Now, this is where I should have researched, because it's like, oh, for an extra X amount of money, we'll do a review or whatever, you know, these kind of things. So, you know, in my head, I thought all these offers would be a free add-on of Muso Soup, but now I understand that their job is to distribute, and then from there, you kind of pay those amounts. Now, I completely, you know, I was like, okay, now I understand this, whatever. That's my own silly fault. But then sort of looking into it, because they all give examples, and, you know, look behind the curtain, RGM was on there as well.
Yeah.
Did spot them on there, but I'd already sort of messaged you and done a different package for that already. Yeah. And, you know, we spoke before we were on air. I know from RGM that you have human writers, shall we say. Yeah. And, you know, I've always enjoyed your reviews, and you reviewed Sheffield Beatles Project before, Pelosa album, and now Spoon Music as well. So I knew what I was getting, and that's the reason I came to you direct with it. In my mind, all these other places will be very similar to that.
Yeah.
But actually what transpires is that these places, it's like I think I called it the music review industrial complex, basically. It's just a big farm of these websites that I don't know, there's no sort of context for anything. It's just, you know, if you click on the website, it's just got review. There's no like editorial pieces and no features, anything like that. There's a few interviews, but mainly it's just reviews. And then you click on them, and they're very clearly written in part, if not in whole, by AI, which you can then feed into an AI detector, and that confirmed my suspicions as well. Just very sort of, well, I mean, we'll jump forward. So I thought, okay, just for a laugh, because it's, I think this one was £5. I thought I'll pay for this one and get a review for Spoon Music. Maybe we can get a hilarious quote out of there. That doesn't make any sense. What actually transpired, it was that sort of boring. I can't even pick a quote out that would be funny. Yeah. But it's very sort of like, track one begins with a pulsating bass line and a beat. And I think it really shows off the musical genius of the song.
Yeah, just so generic, it's not,
So generic, and like I say, I fed it into the AI detector, which I didn't know existed until I'd heard about teachers using it for students and stuff. But very quickly said AI has played a huge part in this. And just the vast majority were like that. So I was very sort of like, wow, this. I mean, you know, I'm very naive to not think that would be the case, but and they were saying we get the X amount of views per month and this kind of thing, and then each of them have a free option, and the vast majority will add you to the Spotify playlist. So I clicked free on all the rest of them, basically. So my song is on very random playlists around the world right now. The play count is not really going up much at all, but it was an eye-opening experience, definitely.
Well, I found it really interesting, because I'm trying to like fight against all that bullshit by doing RGM, and I've been doing it in 10 years, and I think I've been doing it 10 years, and I'm still not bored of it. I'm still fascinated by speaking to people and learning about the industry, and, you know, AI has entered everybody's world. I use it to make reels. That saves me a lot of time for the podcast and stuff. I put it in an AI thing, and it brings out interesting quotes and sections from podcasts and that kind of stuff. So that's how I use AI. But I have had to use the AI detectors, because we have had some writers that have used it, and I can kind of spot AI from a mile off now, just from seeing so many of it. It's so everybody's a genius. Everybody's like, you know, it's so like, every adjective under the sun, and it's so boring, and so I don't know. It's just so obvious that AI is just being used and abused, really, and people are getting charged for writing a review of a band that's just put name of the band, title, maybe something about the band, and let AI do the rest. And it's an interesting part of the industry now.
I can see people using it as a tool to sort of help with I don't know, maybe not a review, but in certain
Yeah,
situations, and a lot of businesses use it for various things and stuff. So I can
yeah,
see it being, we got to adapt to it because it's only
yeah.
going to get more and more use and part of the world, I guess. But yeah, relying on it is a dangerous game, I think, definitely.
I got an email yesterday. It was from some, I can't remember, some London journalism university. They were doing I got just a random email just asking about my experiences of AI in journalism, and I can remember filling it in, and it was just quite interesting, all the different ways that people are doing it. I only use it to make reels. So when it listed, do you do this with AI? Do you do that with AI? Do you do this with AI? There were like probably 30 different ways that it's encroached into journalism these days that I'm not aware of most of them. We're just a little RGM, just doing our little thing, we'll always have human writers, and if anybody submits the music into RGM through the website, then it's going to be a human that writes it. I hope. We've had a couple of people that have used AI, but they don't I check every piece. Particularly with a new writer, I'll always use the AI checker just to try as much as I can to detect it and fight against it and make sure it's pure, because that's how it needs to be. Really,
I know you're right as a human, because I'm sure I've messaged you about this when we got our first review for Sheffield Beatles project.
Yeah,
we did a Christmas cover of "Merry Christmas, Everyone," which is obviously Paul McCartney, but he accidentally put "Last Christmas" by Wham.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, fair enough.
And I thought, I love the idea of us doing this entire Beatles set and just
then a bit of Wham at the end. Yeah,
I was like, yep.
Yeah, even humans aren't perfect.
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't have made that mistake.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So I just find it interesting, and what we're going to say, I had another point that we're going to come up about AI. It'll come to me later in a bit. But yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? And just how another part of the industry that's a minefield, and paying for stuff as well, really, because we have come under a lot of stick over the years for charging for stuff, and I don't know how else to keep the magazine alive. For example, the server cost for our website, I don't mind saying, is about £200 a month. Just to host the site and to have it live on the internet. Plus, you've got to pay for. We pay the writers, so that's another expense. We pay so many. It's probably £500 a month we need to cover to keep the magazine alive. And I don't know. And adverts probably bring in about £25 a month tops. Just having those annoying adverts on the website, but it brings some in, so I keep them on. But it's such a tiny percentage of what we need to stay alive that we have to charge for certain packages and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How do you feel in general about that? So, a lot of people call it payola and all that kind of stuff, and they're dead against it. The Puritans, they just think everything should be free. But in the real world, you can't keep things alive just by being, old school.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the fact you're so transparent is a huge thing. Because I remember, I think the first time I saw it on there, and I'm sure everyone's the same. So like, gosh, okay, I've not seen this before. But then I think, once you understand, and you're talking about the cost there. I don't know. I didn't know how much things cost, but I know they do cost something, and you've got to make that money back somehow. So I completely understand it. Totally get it, and it's like I say, the payola thing, but I don't know. I feel like your reviews are very honest with that. They're not hugely critical by any means, and I'm sure there's going to be part of that. But
people do think that if you've paid for a review, it's going to be biased. People do think if you've paid for a review, then it's going to be biased and it's just going to be like an advert for the band. But there's I put a disclosure on the website that's not going to happen at RGM. If they've got constructive feedback, all our writers are told to offer constructive feedback if they feel it's valid, and if they do, then justify yourself with what you say. That's a kind of our guidelines in a nutshell, really. But we do get criticised a lot from people that don't really understand or don't really know what they're on about, just saying, well, it's just going to be an advert. You're paying for it. It's not going to be. It's going to be biased, really, and it's just going to be a fluff piece. But it's definitely not with RGN. I'm quite proud of creating that environment around us and making sure that it is that way.
Yeah, like I say, it's that transparency. There's no sort of, you say what you get for the money, and there's no sort of add-on after that. It's not like you're going to be sort of saying, oh, you like I said to me with the adverts, you're like, this will be on for X amount of time. It's not like you'd say, oh, put an advert on the website, and then after a week say, oh, what I hadn't told you is like to keep it up there another week.
Oh God, yeah,
each week and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
I think as long as you're transparent, and people are going to moan anyway, but
yeah, they are.
They're moaning about something they've not paid for, I assume, in these instances. So how can you truly moan about it? It's just unfortunately the way of the world to keep these things going. And it's either you do that or RGM doesn't exist. And think about the amount of music that's come through RGM and people have discovered and all that sort of stuff, and the gigs you've put on and the Tramlines binge stuff and all that. It just wouldn't be possible, would it? So.
Well, the money that we get from the Frog and Parrot, just to be more transparent, don't even cover the hotel costs for me to live in Sheffield for a few days. So it's kind of RGM's just it is a passion project, and I can remember doing it for the first 5 or 6 years completely free, just funding it myself, and just thought I can't afford to. I need to do something. No,
exactly.
And you kind of find your way.
Music gets you so far.
yeah. Well, it's I'd love every minute of this. Well, as when the band split up, I started to do stand up for a bit and got really shit at. I was really shit at that, but I got back into it. So I've always needed something, and you continuing music is basically me at the same kind of position I'm in now. I just want to be part of the music industry and just share all this music, and that's a passion that I'll always have. I think, no matter how old I get, so I can always sit at a laptop and help people out and give people advice and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of it's given me a bit of purpose in older life, really, as well, which is quite it's nice for me selfishly as well, just to have something that I can still enjoy and work hard at and have something to do on top of the boring day job.
Yeah, I mean, similar with when I did. Obviously, you were a guest on the Deep Cuts show that I had for 2.5 years, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that was sort of a lockdown thing, obviously through Sheffield Live. And that's, it's just wanting to be involved in some way with music. So I was obviously playing non-local stuff, but then I'd have a local guest on every week. Yeah. Sometimes musicians, sometimes journalists and all sorts of things. Just having some involvement and, I'll not be about the bush. It's totally on for me. I'm not, as much as I love to help someone by having them on the show. I just love music, so I love chatting to them. So it's to my benefit to do so. But just being in and around music is something I'll always do. I think till the day I.
Me too, mate. So talk us about how your experience of this Sheffield Beatles project, a project that's just gone on from strength to strength. It's turned into a bit of a juggernaut. I've been to one before. I've been to the O2 Academy. And just seen old Connor Houston blasting his and Kid Conventional out up there, just people that I've worked with in the Sheffield community and that big band behind you. How did that project start? How did it come about?
Bit mad, really. So, I mean, before it even started, I don't think I've vocalized this, but I'd always say I mean, this is a short life. So, Jason Richford, I was in a covers band with him and Howard and that lot, very briefly, but we did obscure songs. It was sort of a bit of a cabaret thing. So it was I let it off. Otherwise, I was like, I do not ever want to be in a covers band. I hate playing covers on my own. I hate learning other people's songs. I like writing songs, etc., etc. Okay. And then Nick Cox, once of Screaming Maldini, got in touch saying, we're going to do Revolver on its 50th anniversary at Tramlines. So this was 2016, I want to say, maybe 2015. Yeah, 2016. But we need someone to do samples, and I was doing Pelosa at the time, so doing a lot of that sort of stuff. So I was like, I'll give it a go. So I ended up doing backing vocals as well. Obviously samples, especially on stuff like Tomorrow Never Knows, which thankfully there was a radio documentary about Revolver, and they played loads of isolated samples in that radio, so I just cut them straight from there, which is lovely. And then the next year, they're like, do you want to sing some, et cetera, et cetera. And they just built from there, sorry. And every year we do the gig, and it's amazing. I've never played to so many people. I've never earned so much from a gig. It's a huge, never played with an orchestra, and that's, it's hard to stop bloody crying when orchestra's going off sometimes. But every time I play the gig, the next day I'm sort of like, do you know what? Can I be bothered to do this again next year? And then a week later, I'm like, yeah, we're back. So it's just grown and grown. We play our own shows now. We promote our own shows. It's very much stayed. These things could easily sort of, you could get promoters in and managers in, all that sort of stuff. It's, it's stayed just a group of pals. We've we've had different singers, but generally, percentage-wise, we've kept the same core. Even the orchestra, orchestras naturally you'd think would be quite a revolving door, but no, everyone's a pal. So it's just amazing vibe, and it's weird when you're up there singing "I Am the Walrus" and everyone's singing back at you. For them 4 or 5 minutes, it's your song, which I know it's not, obviously, and I'm fully aware that I had no hand in that song at all. But it just feels amazing to hear everyone sort of singing along with you, and the orchestra going off and the band going off, and proper lighting, and you're on a big stage and all that. So yeah, the buzz of playing those gigs is unrivaled, I think.
Have you had offers from evil promoters wanting to take it on the road and that kind of stuff?
A bit, yeah. We talked about taking it on there a little bit, but then that's sort of died a death a little bit, because I think the fact we're Sheffield musicians, and we look out into the crowd and it's pals and it's family and stuff as well. Yeah. So it'd be difficult to sell out anywhere else, I think. I don't know, nothing too bad. We've had a few people ask if they can sort of join us. Like, just someone messaging like, "Do you need a bassist?" Like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. We've not had a bassist all the time. No, but I understand people want to get involved. But it's been quite a good vibe generally. We've had a couple of ups and downs, but generally we've all got on very well. And you mentioned Connor Houston there. He's sort of moved on. Well, he's doing very well with like Gia Ford and Hannah Gray at the moment in London. Good for him as well. Very good album, that Gia Ford album that came out last week. Nice. And we're happy to get new people. We've got Taylor Lewis. We've had Taylor Lewis 2 years now. We've got Laura James back, so it's good to get new faces in sometimes, but also have the same faces stick around as well. Yeah,
so is it still like an annual thing? Do you still do stuff at Tramlines? I can remember seeing you at Tramlines a little bit, but then is it like an annually Christmas, December time?
So we used to do Tramlines every year, or Folk Forest used to do as well. And it worked out nicely because we had 50th anniversary of Revolver, then it was Sgt. Pepper, White Album. So it was, they did an album every year, which was nice for us. Got to Let It Be. Actually, we did Abbey Road and Let It Be together. And from there, we did the Blue Album, the Greatest Hits album. That's when it got a bit like, it's a bit tributey now. I'm not sure I like it. It was great fun, but it was a bit sort of, because our project, the whole thing is you do the album in full, which is part of the fun, really. You even do the songs that probably have never been played live. Never mind, like certainly the Beatles didn't play them live, but even Paul McCartney won't play them live now, sort of thing. And now we just come around. We did Beach Boys last year as well to really confuse people. Sheffield Beatles Project doing Pet Sounds alongside Sgt. Pepper. But this year coming up is the first time we're doing the exact same show again. Not exact same show, that's absolutely wrong, but we're doing the White Album in full, which we have done before. But there's a demand for it, and to be honest, that was probably my favourite one, just because it's such a mad album and it's so varied. I think it lends itself really well to a show, and obviously you got 2 sets as well, side A and side A and B, and then side C and D as well. So it's a lot of fun, and it's been very joyous and harmonious.
It was kind of emotional because I took my mum, because my mum loves the Beatles, so we came down to O2 Academy, and a lot of the crowd were emotional watching it, and just and watching how much fun you guys are having up there too. It is an event to look out for, people of Sheffield, or the surrounding areas, and get involved with, because the O2 Academy, it won't be there anymore, will it? That's closed down still.
No, so we've been. Is it not even back open? I don't think it is it? You're right, yeah. So we dodged a bit of a bullet there, because we actually moved when we sort of had an issue with promoters, and we took it on ourselves. We moved to the Octagon. That was 2 years ago. So we've been playing this will be the third one at the Octagon.
Nice.
Really like it there as well. Cheaper beer.
Yes.
The big one. Nice, obviously nice shaped room. Not because it's an Octagon, what I mean. It's a bit more sort of intimate feeling. It's obviously smaller, but it's it feels more packed out the way the shape of the room and that kind of thing. And this year we're actually doing, not on a big promo tip here, but we do one big Christmas show, but this year we're doing 2. So we're doing Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, nice.
The Sunday show, when you're talking about bringing a parent there, and my parents come as well. It'll be fully seated. It'll be sort of a bit quieter, not so many flashing lights, just an accessible show, really. Might have like a signer as well. So that's really nice to do. That's the kind of thing that I would never think to do. And then others are like, why don't we do this show? I was like, actually, yeah, that's a very good point. That's really nice that, people can choose to stand on Saturday and wash away.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Well,
maybe to help Skelter.
Well, within the description of this chat, podcast, YouTube, wherever you're watching us or listening to us, there'll be a link to discover more about the Beatles project, because I can't shout about it enough. I just think it's an amazing thing to go and watch. I can't imagine what it'd be like to be part of it. I just think it looks fantastic.
Bless you, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So why have you gone solo then? It's just easier. you don't have to get 5 people in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
How did Spook Music? How did this come about?
So let's go back to the MySpace day, shall we? So when I was in a trio, I started messing around with home recordings, electronic stuff. Very bad stuff, but I was doing it. And I thought, and this is a little problematic now, I thought, let's pretend I'm this Belgian guy who's come to Sheffield
okay.
for Spook Music. I'm going to post on my good friend's MySpace walls in broken English, which is terrible, and pretend, I'm making this music and like, can you help me get gigs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Never really did anything with it. And then I started doing sort of more, not singer-songwriter stuff, but more sort of like house music and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just upload it now and again. And then Tramlines 2013, I had a show at Old House booked. Then my laptop broke, so I cancelled it. And then 10 years later, your friend of mine, Rob Hurst,
yes.
I just saw he had an empty TBC slot opening on the Saturday at Frog and Parrot, and I was like, can I play? And he said yes. I was like, oh crap, now I've got to think how to do this. But it's very basic setup. It's just a sampler with my backing track and my vocal. And it's given me the opportunity just to be really daft and stupid and post really stupid reels, which I very much enjoy doing, taking the piss out. Especially when you're going through, as I do on Instagram, like random reels, and you see ones, the ones where they're like, I'm having a blessed day here on the beach. And then they're like, friendship and love and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna lean right into that.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just like I say, it's just me. So and my partner as well on the new EP. It's just very easy to get along with it and play gigs, book gigs, and record stuff. Everything's done at home as well. So
we did that written interview, and I started reading it. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is different. But you did give me a heads up that it's not going to be like, it's not ads. It is this character.
There's nothing wrong with me. For some reason in my head, I thought it'd be funny to be like obsessed with Wet, Wet, Wet.
Okay.
I don't know why. Just something about them that makes me laugh, which is hard. That was one of my mum's favourite bands when I was growing up.
Mine too, yeah. She took me to see Marty. Well, I took her to see Marty Poller in Manchester just a couple of months ago. So I had to
really?
That recent, yeah.
Spook Music would have loved it.
yeah.
But no, I like that was part of the reason I wanted an interview, because I got nothing online that sort of said who I was. So I thought,
nice.
With that picture of me posing in my garden as well, I thought,
that's one of my favourite promo pictures I've seen for ages.
That's my neighbour's house.
Okay.
Please don't look out the window, please. It's just been a lot of fun, and once again, I experimented with the Muso Soup stuff and all that, but I've got no grand illusions with this. It's just play daft gigs. Like I say, it's me and a sampler and sunglasses and shouting and a bit of swearing.
Did you use AI to make the cover?
Yes, I did. Follett.
I thought so.
When you were talking about AI earlier, and I was saying about sort of using it for various things, I forgot that I didn't entirely use it for the cover. But that blew my mind a little bit. I just typed in man with a beard with sunglasses, woman with blonde hair and a dress in a fighting pose, and then press generate. And I was like, yep, that's it.
It's not too bad, is it, AI? It has its uses.
I quite like AI, but none of the music is all...
Yes, of course.
All me. All me. I make this beat.
Brilliant. So is it just like, is it something you're going to be continuing doing? Have you got time with all the other projects? What's coming up for Spook Music?
My band Water People, which we've been going for 3 years now, played maybe 6 gigs, probably had about 8 practices. It was very, very difficult to get us all in the same room, unfortunately. And, my the old me would have been pushing at it and pushing at it and pushing at it, and maybe like saying, "Oh well, I can't be bothered. Let's split up." But now I'm a bit more lax about things, and like it's fine if we go 6 months without a gig. I don't mind. We don't have to worry about building momentum and all that sort of stuff because it's just a bit of fun, really. I would like to record with them. We'll get there eventually, probably next year. But in between, I've got the Spook Music stuff to fill that void of, because I love gigging. That's I love recording. That's, I don't know, on the balance, I'd say recording is probably my favorite thing to do. Then gigging, and I can pick and choose essentially when people have me anyway when I do that with Spook Music. So that fills the void of a few months go by and I've not done anything.
It must be quite nice to have all these little projects with no real pressure on you, just doing it for the love of it. There's a lot of like bands that I speak to that are so stressed out with what other people are doing. They're just that. Why is that band doing that? Why is that band doing that? And I'm not, and getting really stressing themselves out about it. When you can de-stress quite a lot by just taking yourself a little bit less serious and just doing it for the love in it and see where it goes, rather than concentrating so much on what other people do as well. It must be nice for you, that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, going back to when we were sort of 20, whatever, to make it, you just needed it to get in front of a label, essentially, didn't you? So that was a very sort of clear. Whereas now, looking at the ratings and people like that, they can obviously, as their motto goes, no label and all that sort of stuff. So that you can conceivably see yourself making it the same way they have. I'm not saying all bands are going to do that, but they can see a path. Whereas before it was a bit like, how the hell am I going to get this to Sony or something like that? So there's probably a bit of stress with that where it doesn't come off. And like say online, you're not just up against Sheffield bands now. If you're a Sheffield band, you're up against the entire world online, essentially.
All the bands,
it's really difficult, I imagine. If I was 20 years younger and I was getting like I say, I didn't get many reviews for the Spoon stuff. That probably would have bothered me 20 years ago. Now it's sort of like, well, actually, I've got a couple of quotes in there I can use. That'll do. That's fine. I'm happy with that sort of thing. So, with age, it gets easier.
It does. It really does. And if you're interested in Spook Music, I'll put all the links that we've been covering on RGM and this link to Spotify, so you can get involved yourselves. Why not? Why would you get this far in the interview and not click in the description and invest in a bit of Spook Music? Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, could have pressed play by accident.
I know, fair enough. I ended up with us two banging on. But Ads, I've really enjoyed catching up with you today, mate. Do you want to give us a bit of an example of Spook Music? How would Spook Music? How would that character? How would they speak? How would they speak to their fans and invite them to invest?
I went to it, so I always you never see my eyes as Spook Music, and whilst I don't have the sunglasses on me, I do have the ones from the Eras tour.
Oh, nice! Very nice. Okay.
So Spook Music would say, if you're a fan of Wet 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 or Bon Jovi or Enrique Iglesias especially, I would definitely be checking out Spook Music's music. It's not as good as those. Who is? However, it's definitely worth checking out. And please, even if you don't listen, please like me on Instagram. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Well, Spook Music, also known as Ads Follett. Cheers for joining us today for the podcast, mate. Really enjoyed catching up with you, pal. And enjoy the rest of your day, your week. And thanks again, pal. Nice one.
Cheers, mate.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my little studio. We're just having a look around. This is where I record loads of good chats. And you know that already because you've just finished one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed it, have a look around. Look at this. There's different videos all around here. New videos that you can enjoy too. I promise you, it'll be all right. Nice one. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. See you soon.